Hello, hello, Jordan Sheridan, live Status Coup, uh, around 1 o'clock East Coast time on May 19th. It is Friday, and TGI corruption. It is a corrupt cesspool we're living in, and we are going to go through and update you on some things we've been working on. We've had some small victories, but also major obstacles in terms of the stories we're covering. We're going to take your calls also. So hopefully, if you're on your lunch break or you work from home or pulled over in the car or driving in the car safely, you could call in a little bit later. We'll be taking your calls. Big Friday, actually. Big Friday. Usually, Friday you wind things down, but we're trying something different. So we're going to do our members call tonight because it seems that our Status Coup members, which we'll go through in a little bit when more people click on, seems like it worked out for most members, which I think at this point we're close to over 2,000 paying members when you add up our paying members to our website, Patreon, members that are through YouTube, Substack. When you mix it all up, we're over 2,000, which is a great accomplishment considering we lost a lot due to COVID, not death, just people who had to cancel due to financial constraints. And we are a small bootstrapped outlet. So, I'm so happy that we're gaining paying members. I thank all of you who have signed up. And as a perk to signing up, we do a monthly members call. So we're going to do our monthly members call tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. I will most certainly be drinking whiskey on the call. So I hope you'll be drinking or smoking, or if you don't do either, tea, kombucha. Well, technically kombucha has some booze in it, actually. Green tea, herbs, sage, whatever calms you down or gets you excited. Last time we had about 50 to 60 members join. Maybe we could get even more on a Friday night. So it'll be 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, and you will get the link, the Zoom link. If you are a member through our website or Patreon, you'll get it through email, probably like a half hour before the call. So look out for it at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. Or if you are a YouTube member, you will get it as a community post for the link. And if you want to sign up, you got, 6 hours away from the members call. So statuscoup.com/join. We will be pushing membership throughout today's show. We have a very simple promotion going on. Well, not a promotion, a goal is to get 100 new members this month. So we're headed towards the end of the month. Right now, we've gained 65 new paying members, which is awesome. Thanks to Lewis's reporting in East Palestine, as well as I believe my reporting in Flint and Kalamazoo, which we're going to cover today, the Kalamazoo story again. So yeah, if you want to continue seeing us getting out there on the road, please support us. statuscoup.com/join. It really pained me yesterday, but we spent over $15,000 on a new live view, which is the broadcasting unit we use to go live. We had to get another one because Colin moved back to Texas. So Colin and Lewis are in Texas. I'm up here in the New York area. So obviously, if Colin and Lewis are going to go on the road, I can't exactly mail them through the mail our $25,000 live view. It's just not logistically possible to keep mailing a big broadcasting unit. So we needed another one. And we actually said, you know what, we're going to get the top of the line one, which is now the LiveView 800, because it gives you more options, and it also, fingers crossed, will help us as far as connectivity. So we have less connectivity issues if it's a big protest or something like that. So it costs a lot of money, 15 grand. We did not, the remaining Koch brother did not pay for it. George Soros did not pay for it. Norfolk Southern did not pay for it. Graphic Packaging did not pay for it. The Democratic Party did not pay for it. The Republican Party did not pay for it. No corporate fat cat sugar daddies or sugar mamas paid for it. You paid for it. Well, actually, technically we didn't really have the money, so we have to fundraise. But you guys are paying for it. And it's so that we could cover more things. So technically, now that we're going to have two, we could have Lewis on the ground and me on the ground in two different places going live, not at the same exact time, but in the same trip, which we haven't been able to do in the past. So yeah, sign up if you can. StatusCoup.com/join, $5 to $10 a month. And if you sign up while we're live, we'll give you a shout out. And I'll give you more reminders as we go for the members call tonight, which again is through Zoom. If you don't want to be on camera, you could mute your video camera so nobody sees you and just listen. If you could also ask questions in the chat if you don't want to speak on camera. So a lot of options. Anyway, with that said, also, we'll be live again at 5 o'clock Eastern for Tina's right-wing insanity report. And I mean, you could go you could have a 10-hour show on right-wing insanity these days, between the militias, QAnon, the culture wars. So Tina will be live at 5 o'clock Eastern. Now, first story today, as we've been covering, and I was just on the ground there. Obviously, we know about the Flint water crisis, but there's a lot of other. Michigan is just a fucking bee's nest for poisoning their own citizens. It's really unbelievable. Republican governors, Democratic governors, it doesn't really seem to matter. But Kalamazoo, Michigan, which I've been covering for a few months, has, there's paper mills all over this country. A lot of them smell terrible, but oftentimes bad odor doesn't necessarily mean, health hazard. But in Kalamazoo, as I covered recently with Colin, and we both got sick for it, they have a paper mill, a graphic packaging paper mill, shockingly dropped in a poor Black community that is emitting dozens of volatile organic compounds, gases, and has been getting residents sick to the point that in 2015, the last year that we have data for, because they took the data off their website, that 2015, almost 2,000 Black infants under the age of 1 died that live in the neighborhood of this plant. Almost 2,000 Black babies under the age of 1, 5 times the rate of white infants. I met a mother whose 17-year-old daughter died of a severe asthma attack. Mine had minor asthma before she moved blocks away from this plant, and then it got worse and worse and worse to the point that she had such a bad asthma attack they could not save her. Her 32-year-old son is now on 24/7 oxygen and life support and has had several close calls where he almost died. The guest that I'm about to bring on has health issues from living there. Severe rates of asthma in this community, COPD, cancer rates, heart disease, you name it, they've got it. But for some strange reason, this was just kind of normalized. Residents complained for years. This plant has been there for over a decade. And because of the neoliberal hellscape we live in, essentially, graphic packaging provides 600 something jobs to the community. They give grants and money to the colleges, nonprofits, food pantries. And because a lot of our manufacturing capacity has been sent offshores, essentially cities and states are allowing these corporate polluters to poison us just as a means of doing business. Because if they don't allow them to do it, they, I guess, fear that they'll send them their jobs elsewhere. But in this case, I mean, all you got to do is go to this community. The smell is horrifying. And I'm so glad we went, even though it's not necessarily safe, because it's one thing to hear it from residents. It's another thing to smell it yourself. Colin got sick. He was sick for like a week or two after Kalamazoo. I was sick for a few days. My eye was swollen for a week, just reporting next to this plant. So fortunately, our reporting there, I do believe, expedited. The health department had been just dragging their feet for 3 years on a health study that they only did because of the guest I'm about to bring on. This activist and tenacious woman, just a regular everyday woman, activist and resident of Kalamazoo, was just on the health department, on the environmental department. She paid out of pocket almost $1,000 for a toxicologist to study previous gas levels that were coming out of this plant. And that toxicologist found several gases that were at higher levels than is allowed. So essentially that forced the health department to then do their own study, which probably should have taken no more than a year, but for some reason was delayed for 3 years. And no, COVID is not an excuse. So finally, after we went there and, covered this, Colin and I got sick. Our reporting on Twitter got around almost 60,000 views. Then a video on breaking points did very well and got, I think, close to 60,000 views. Viewers and social media users were tagging Governor Whitmer, the health department, city of Kalamazoo officials. All of a sudden, this long delayed health study was released. And, we think it had to do with our reporting. And then a meeting was set up, a first meeting with the health department and residents that residents had been asking for years. That meeting happened last night. It's good that there was a meeting. It's bad that the meeting, which we're going to show you, was, in my view, from what I watched, a joke. Not satisfactory, what they were telling the residents, and the solutions are basically deal with it to the residents. So joining me now is Brandy Crawford, who's been on a couple times in the last 2 weeks, because you've been really, the main resident fighting this, demanding answers. And as I was saying, if not for you, I don't even think there would have been this study in the first place, because you had to pay out of pocket almost $1,000 for a toxicologist 3 years ago to look at the historical data that was coming out of that plant from 2009, 2020. That toxicologist found troublesome gas levels that were coming out of there. And that led the health department to finally do this study. And real quick, as we've talked about, city officials blew you off, state officials blew you off, the media basically blew you off. But now suddenly, after they released this health study, all these people that blew you off, suddenly it's their top priority. Suddenly they were doing things this whole time that nobody knew about. And suddenly they care so much. So before we start playing clips, can you tell folks, Brandy, the Michigan Health Department wanted to meet with you privately before the community meeting last night. Tell people about the private meeting and then your synopsis of the overall meeting. We do have some clips we're going to show too.
So the private meeting was just trying to tell me, they wanted to see if I had any questions before the meeting. I think that they knew that I was probably going to go off at the meeting. And so they'd probably try to smooth things over with me to try to make me feel like they actually were concerned and they were doing something to protect the health of the community. But it was a meeting that went nowhere, in my opinion. They talked about seeing me on the news.
This was with the health department?
Right. With the same people that presented at the town hall. It was the same two health department employees. And we were in there for over an hour, and I had my attorney with me. And I asked a lot of questions, and I just told them it's not a good recommendation to tell everyone that the only health recommendation they have is to stay in their house. These people go to work, they go to school, their kids want to play outside, they want to have graduation parties, birthday parties, barbecues, they want to have their families over. The indoor air pollution can be worse than outdoor pollution, and the outdoor pollution is already horrible, so that's moving in through their HVAC systems. The indoor pollution, it's even if they stay inside, they're getting poisoned. They can't open their windows. It's about to be summer when it's 10 times worse, which it's already so horrible, like I said. But it was just a meeting of to me, it was and they were talking about the news, and they said something about that death rate that you're talking about too. They said that the 1,950 was a percentage. I'm like, if the percentage is 1,950, that's worse than the 1,950. So I'm really confused, and I told him that the county health department.
I think we lost your audio for a minute.
You might just need to refresh your page real quick when that happens.
Me?
No, Brandy.
No?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
And so, like, I told them, like, the county health department is, taking down old statistics. And they told me, they made a lot of excuses of why they didn't do, like, I told them the hospitalization rate that Dr. Ansel had was way higher than what they came up with. And they said, where did you get that? I said, asthmahelp.org. And they're like, well, we didn't know that. And I said, they're sitting here making excuses of why they did certain things or why they didn't do certain things because they didn't have the data. But I gave them all the data. I talked on a weekly basis to the toxicologist that did this report. And he's on annual leave right now. So he wasn't in the meeting, but he's the one that had constant contact with for almost 3 years. And so I had Dr. Ansel, who was an epidemiologist, and then I hired a toxicologist to look at the gas studies. So they knew since December 2020, there's a severe health risk, not only to the residents of the community, but also the employees at Graphic Packaging and the wastewater treatment plant. Like it says right on the toxicology report, there's a severe health risk to residents in this environmental justice community and to the employees at both plants. So it's like, even if you have a job, like, do you want to get poisoned? Come on. You have to give the employees severance packages and relocate these people. That's all you can do. You're not going to shut down the plant. So just give people money to leave.
Well, before I play clips, why is that not being discussed? Why is it's just not even considered as an option? Maybe not permanently, but
their excuse was ego. When I said it, I said, well, why can't you? I said, can you shut down the plant? Relocation. They said it's on Eagle. But Eagle won't. I mean, I've asked Eagle, I've asked EPA, I've asked everybody. Like nobody wants to help.
What do you mean? The environmental department won't let them shut down the plant? What does that mean?
The environmental department is not going to shut down the plant. The EPA is not going to shut down the plant because they put corporations over health. Like I've begged. I told them about the Superfund site. They said they were going to look into it. I said, they're like, oh, we couldn't find that. I sent you guys the information that in 1955, Graphic Packaging admitted they've been there 100 years. They just had different names: James River, Brown Company, Fort James Packaging Company, before Coors. I mean, they started out as Coors, and then they bought all these other companies, and then they just blended them all together, and now they're Graphic Packaging and Graphic Packaging Holding on the stock market. And so so they've been doing this for 100 years. Like they've gotten away with killing generations of people for 100 years. And now it's just way worse. And I'm also worried about people in Waco, Texas, because they Graphic Packaging shut down a couple of plants to make another huge, graphic packaging mill like in Kalamazoo that's poisoning the whole city now. And it's like $1 billion plant in Waco, Texas. And so I sent an email to the environmental person today to let her know, look what's going on in Kalamazoo. If they build this plant in Waco, Texas, like the one they did in Kalamazoo, you guys are all going to get poisoned too.
So let's start with a few clips. I don't know the order, but I want to show a lot of what they were saying was just kind of this in the weeds bullshit that doesn't really mean anything to the average person. And you'll get a sense from the meeting that for residents, the house is on fire. A health study came out saying, honestly, I think they even were misleading, saying, oh, it's the hydrogen sulfide levels are 5 times higher. Well, no, at points, they're like 20 times higher. The quote unquote allowable limit for hydrogen sulfide, which is the main gas that they're saying is of concern, is 1.4 parts per billion. Just on Wednesday, they were finding it at 80 parts per billion. I can't do math. That's a shit ton higher than 1.4 parts per billion. And they're saying, oh, we tested for 100 other toxins and we didn't find concerning levels. Yeah, prove that to me. I'd like you to prove that. What else you tested for? Because in the descriptions of the study, they don't get into what else they tested for, as far as I could tell. So let's play clip number 1, Colin.
What did we find? What we looked at in the area was over 100 different chemicals. You're going to hear a lot tonight talking about hydrogen sulfide. When we looked at these 100 different chemicals, there was one that stood out at levels of a health effect, and that was hydrogen sulfide. Hydrogen sulfide was not found to be higher than what we call the acute screening levels or the short-term exposure levels. So what that means is that we do not expect that a short period of exposure at the levels of hydrogen sulfide that we found would cause an increased risk of health effects. What we did find is that the levels of hydrogen sulfide in the community air were above what are called long-term or chronic screening levels. These are screening levels that if you are consistently breathing the air over long periods of time, you might expect to have some sort of increased risk to your health. And in this case, the increased risk that you potentially expect to see here would be a persistent nasal irritation. So what does that mean by saying persistent nasal irritation? It's nasal inflammation, nasal discomfort that does not go away when you stop breathing in the hydrogen sulfide. I do also want to point out in this evaluation of the air data, the hydrogen sulfide levels we were finding are high enough that some people will detect them as odors in the air.
So, yeah, we tested for 100 other things, but we only found one thing, and we're not going to tell you what else we tested for. But even though a toxicologist in 2020, the one you paid out of pocket for, found higher levels than normal for many other chemicals, they're saying they tested for 100 things, but only found concerning levels of hydrogen sulfide. I don't want to say they're
also, like I told them, like, you guys are getting your data from a 3-day visit from the EPA with their mobile unit. 3 days? You guys are testing chemicals from 3 days. And I know that Graphic Packaging was tipped off and they probably shut down one of their boilers or something like that when they came there, because they came during the day. They told me not to tell anybody. Like, they're not telling everybody. Seriously? Come on. Like, you're not tipping
this
everybody
testing
off.
was based on 3 days?
3 days.
So if their testing was based on 3 days, why would it take 3 years to release it?
Riddle me that one, Jordan. It's 3 days of the other chemicals, but it's like since 2019 of the hydrogen sulfide. So they had data from 2019 too. And then my toxicology report went over both gas studies. So Dr. Tessier, the toxicologist, pretty much did the work for them.
I hate to interrupt, but I got to say that is extremely concerning, that there's something called lies by omission. So when that official is saying we tested for over 100 toxins, if you're just a normal resident who showed up for the meeting, before you live and learn, you trust your government, you're like, okay, that seems pretty thorough.
Michigan Department of Health, yeah. They didn't test
they didn't say that was only over 3 days, over 3 years.
And it was done by the EPA, not by the health department. And the other testing that they looked at was from Graphic Packaging and the wastewater plant, who are liable parties in this. So that's another thing I said about, like I said.
I know you're upset and frustrated, but I just want to tell you the viewers like you. JG,
Thank you.
Super chat. This message come from both Tony and me. Brandy is awesome. Continue.
So like another thing is that I told them, it's like, why are you trusting the testing that's done by Graphic Packaging and the wastewater plant when they're the ones that are poisoning us? And they had no excuse. And I said, why can't the health department come down there? If you're supposed to protect health, why aren't you down here testing? Why are you trusting? And then I said, I think it's strange that you're having private meetings with Eagle and EPA, and Eagle never did any enforcement against Graphic Packaging. They're like, oh, that's just the platform whenever there's an assessment.
Lost you again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry about that. So, yeah, like it was all excuses. The private meeting, the town hall, and that's why I went off on everyone and said, you know what I did. Like
Well, I think, yes, it was all excuses, but like I say, in the case of Flint, we can't just we have to look at the acute situation now. And I would say, based on the fact that the 99 other, whatever they were testing for, was only done over 3 days. We don't know, like you said, if Graphic Packaging was tipped off and pulled back on their emissions, which they can do. We don't know what the weather was, because weather does affect in terms of the emissions. So it's very possible that there's a whole lot of other shit coming out of that plant that are at concerning levels that nobody knows about, because
And the EPA hasn't been down there since the expansion started, Jordan. That's the thing. Like, they were down there before the expansion. So now you increase pollution by 700,000 tons. Why are you not down there now testing? Like, I'm confused. Why did you just come for 3 days before the expansion was finished and the increase it? And even on the permit for Eagle, that's why I bitched at the meeting. It's like, it says right on the permit, you're increasing volatile organic compounds. Like, you're increasing them. Like, why would you even give a permit to increase chemicals that cause cancer? How is this legal?
Keep smashing the like button, by the way. I'm live a little bit earlier today, so less people probably know. On Fridays, just so you guys know, I'll probably be going live earlier because Tina is going to be the main live stream at 5 o'clock Eastern. Let's play another clip, Colin.
These asthma hospitalization rates include hospitalizations for all ages combined. So from this analysis, we see that the asthma hospitalization rates for both of the 2 zip code areas are not statistically higher than that for the state of Michigan. The report also includes similar graphs that include asthma prevalence data. The asthma prevalence, or the proportion of the population that have asthma, demonstrated similar results. The 2 zip code areas did not have significantly higher asthma prevalence than the state of Michigan as a whole.
This is 4 years old.
Betsy, please continue.
So if you didn't hear, the audience of residents is shouting, "That's ridiculous," and saying, I think somebody was referring to their kid who's 4 years old who has asthma. There's another clip that we'll play later where a woman points out that your asthma hospitalizations statistics don't really take into account the fact that a lot of people can't afford to go to the hospital in this area or don't have health insurance. What was your thoughts on their asthma statistics? Because you know better than anyone. You frankly did the job that journalists there should be doing. You knocked on doors around the community to ask if people were having health problems because of the plant. You hear me? Do you hear me? Refresh your stream. Can you hear me? All right. Well, I'll text her. Colin, let's play the next clip.
Again, my name is State Representative Julie Rogers from House District 41. I have a brief statement to read, and then I do have a question for the HHS. Thank you for being here. We appreciate the information. As a healthcare provider, I am concerned about the potential health effects resulting from long-term exposure to hydrogen sulfide, a volatile organic compound that can cause eye, nose, and throat irritation, headaches, and nausea. Long-term exposure to hydrogen sulfide can increase the risk of permanent nasal irritation even after an individual is no longer being exposed to that irritant. In addition, those with existing respiratory effects such as asthma could be at risk if an acute level of hydrogen sulfide is present. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services study was commissioned after 246 reports of foul odors came from the Kalamazoo community surrounding Graphic Packaging International over the past 12 years. I am grateful for the completion of this MDHHS air quality study, as I have been advocating for it since my first term, for an investigation into the many reports of odors predominantly in the north side neighborhood of Kalamazoo and our surrounding areas. While one sample was shown to exceed acute levels of exposure during the study, it was found that measured ambient air concentrations of hydrogen sulfide in communities adjacent to GPI and the Kalamazoo wastewater reclamation plant present a public health hazard. As such, I will continue to advocate for additional remediation steps to ensure hydrogen sulfide emissions are reduced and that continuous monitoring be conducted to ensure the situation is being addressed. Our residents should not face health risks from long-term exposure.
So Brandy, I don't know. Two things. Number one, while your connection was bad, the health official was referring to the asthma study of hospitalizations, which I thought was bullshit because a lot of people can't afford to go to the hospital in this area.
I
A
said
lot of
that.
people, a lot of people don't have insurance.
Yep.
And you did the work of journalists knocking on doors. You found, what would you say percentage in this neighborhood of people with pretty bad asthma?
99.
99%.
Every door I went to.
We're not just talking about like a block or two from the plant. We're talking about.
I went on I don't know. I went on almost every street. Just in the north side, though. I didn't go to but I went to businesses on the east side on Riverview Drive, which is like the street like near both plants, and all the business employees were sick too. That's
because it's always just crazy to me, years and years of covering this stuff, what these agencies are saying in their little studies do not match reality on the ground. We're seeing it in East Palestine as well right now.
I told him to go door to door. I said, that's another thing I said in the private meeting. Go to door to door, because I said the same thing you just said. Exactly. I said, there's a lot of people that don't have insurance, and there's a lot of people, especially of the African-American population, that just don't go to the doctor until they're sick. Like my boyfriend's dad, he did it until he was like in his 60s. Like everybody is, a lot of people don't go to the doctor. It doesn't matter the race or not, but they don't go until they're sick. Like, they might just be stubborn and like, I'm not going to go, or they just have no insurance. And I told him, I said, can you guys provide insurance to people? And they're like, that's on the county, the county health. Everything was like blamed on the county health department. And that's why when James Baker was speaking last night at the meeting, who is the director of the wastewater plant, I asked him, even though he didn't work there, in 2009, when you did that gas study, did you refer it to the county health department then? Because you found gas leaks and you found toxic chemicals and gases that were above minimal risk level. And he said he didn't know, but I looked directly at the director of the county health department, who was still the director at that time, I believe. And he just looked at me and gave me an evil look. He didn't answer my question.
Interesting. And I want to play this clip one more time. I think you missed some of it, just to get your facial expression, because I think this right here is the epitome of our Johnny-come-lately politicians who don't give a flying fuck who don't give a flying fuck when corruption is happening, when their people that they are elected to represent are hurting and being poisoned and complaining, and blow them off. But then once the cat gets out of the bag, all of a sudden they're so concerned. Play this clip again.
State Representative Julie Rogers from House District 41. I have a brief statement to read, and then I do have a question for the HHS. Thank you for being here. We appreciate the information. As a healthcare provider, I am concerned about the potential health effects resulting from long-term exposure to hydrogen sulfide, a volatile organic compound that can cause eye, nose, and throat irritation, headaches, and nausea. Long-term exposure to hydrogen sulfide can increase the risk of permanent nasal irritation even after an individual is no longer being exposed to that irritant. In addition, those with existing respiratory effects such as asthma could be at risk if an acute level of hydrogen sulfide is present. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services study was commissioned after 246 reports of foul odors came from the Kalamazoo community.
So how concerned was she when you went to her, years ago?
She didn't. I email her every article that's came out. I've emailed her personal emails. I called her. I talked to her on the phone when I first started this in 2020. And I asked her, why did you vote for the expansion of graphic packaging? Like, she was a county commissioner before she became a representative. Like, she voted for this expansion to happen. And now all of a sudden you're saying you're concerned. You ignored us like every other politician. You didn't speak up for us. Like, you could have went to the governor yourself. Like, I feel like everyone's just jumping on this bandwagon all of a sudden because they want to look like they're concerned. But like, I called to her out last night and everyone else, like, you guys are frauds. You're evil. You don't care. And you're just trying to save face right now so that you can get reelected. Like, it's not about caring about our health, caring about everyone that's living there being poisoned to death, for God's sakes. Like, it's insane. Like, there was 150 people at that town hall that were pissed off and sad and concerned and begging for help. You know, it's like begging for all the help that we can. Like I said, when I talked, I begged for 3 years. They didn't give a fuck.
And I
He was
think
my
what's
friend.
important. Oh no, fuck. I think what's important, and by the way, fucking smash that like button, excuse my French. And reminder, our members only call, hint, hint, our members call is tonight at 7:00 Eastern. So we're a little over 6 hours away. We're almost we're headed towards our goal for the month of adding 100 new members. We've added 65.
Sign up.
That's right.
Like,
We've added 65.
I talked to CNN and ABC reporters. They said they were waiting for the health consultation. The health consultation comes out and they're not even emailing me back. They're not reporting on it. These are mainstream media networks, and Jordan is the only like national reporting network. And we need him to have stop clicking on ads on CNN. Don't go on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all these national networks. Stop reading their news. Start supporting like people like Jordan that are on the ground that actually care about communities. Like, we need as many members as possible so that he can continue to focus on communities that are being poisoned to death because the mainstream media doesn't care. They don't help.
And just to drop the veil and show the behind the scenes, a lot of people, I mean, if you don't realize, the live streams are maybe 10% of what I do. I'm constantly texting with people like Brandy or on the phone with activists and sources. This week, I've been working on a major story on East Palestine. I can't get into it, but if it is what I think it is, it's going to be fucking major. And Norfolk Southern should be very scared. I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
But the problem is, for example, some of your local media there got their panties in a twist, excuse my French, because I called them out. And they were saying on Twitter, we've been covering this for years. Well, there's a difference between just writing articles that graphic packaging has been fined again, or graphic packaging, is dragging, basically giving updates. Anybody could really do that. And leaving your cubicle and doing what Brandy did, which is knocking on doors, getting the human stories of how this is affecting residents, the severe asthma, the fact that residents aren't letting their kids out to play because of how bad it smells and how severe it affects their respiratory. The fact when I went there, I was shown playgrounds that no one goes on. The fact that going to elementary schools to talk to teachers and kids, that the kids don't go out for recess because they're not allowed to go out for recess.
A lot of those parents were at that meeting because they're terrified of their children.
Right. So you could write articles on this, but anybody could write articles on this. Where is the aggressive coverage, the human interest coverage, the challenging graphic packaging? And I'm talking to MLive and any other Michigan outlet, challenging a multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerate that's net worth is almost $8 billion, this company. Net worth, as of the other day, was almost $8 billion. Why is no reporter asking, why aren't you using carbon filters at your paper mill? Do you know they're not using carbon filters at this paper mill for $1 billion international company? Why are these reporters not right now not doing articles showing?
Every reporter knows about it, because I'm telling you, if one reporter does an article, I send it to every other environmental reporter in Michigan or national reporter. I send to E&E News. I send you everything. Like, I send every reporter, like, every bit of information I get. If I get a report, if I see like someone doing a story that talks about the toxic gases or any types of updates, every single environmental reporter in the United States has had emails from me. There is no excuse for this not to be constantly covered, or there's no excuse for anyone not holding the governor's office accountable for this. But I have been told, even MLive told me today, they contacted the governor's office and they've been contacting and there's no response from her.
I contacted the governor's office, I think maybe the second interview we did, which was probably last year. They didn't get back. I followed up. They don't get back. They don't get back to me on Flint either. It's kind of like if you're not the New York Times and you're a smaller outlet, they just think if they don't respond, then whatever.
I don't think she's going to respond to anyone if she was like supportive of a $125 million bond for graphic packaging to expand, because it makes her look.
And we also have to look at the national implications here, because everyone's focused on 2024, et cetera. Let's not forget, Gretchen Whitmer, if you don't know, to those that are watching, Joe Biden actually wanted Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, as his vice president. That's who he wanted. His people talked him out of it and said, go with Kamala Harris, for the black voter and black community, which whatever. I mean, I'm not a Kamala Harris fan, but I'm totally happy to see, history, a black woman as vice president.
Yeah.
But the point is, I mean, Biden wanted her. The New York Times and others have done fluffy little, adoring profiles on Gretchen Whitmer, positive coverage because of the kidnapping ploy, this and that. But if you actually look at reality, she lied to the people of Flint. She said she was going to reopen the water pods that the Republican governor shut down. She didn't do that. She's allowed manipulated testing that she knows is manipulated in Flint to stand up. And in Kalamazoo, I think the crime on top of the crime is Governor Whitmer's health department and environmental department. They were getting the complaints from you and residents for years, yet somehow they approved in 2021 a $125 million bond deal to allow Graphic Packaging to expand all this gas that they're releasing. And now it's traveling beyond the poor black community, and now the white folks on the west side are experiencing it. And you and I wish I was joking, but I'm not. It's probably going to take wealthier white people to start complaining to actually see some change here.
Probably. I mean, that's the majority of the people that showed up at the meeting were white, and they were very angry, like me, like very. And we were in a church, like it's just the whole gym was full, and I just they didn't care. Like you could see their faces were like blank with everyone speaking. Like it just seemed like they just didn't care because it's not affecting them personally.
Let's play another clip. One of these clips is Brandy, but let's play another clip.
We will be putting out periodic reports. Periodic does not mean waiting another 2 to 3 years for reports. These will be more frequent now that we have the groundwork done for knowing what's out there, how we're looking for it. These periodic reports will go out there so that we can either affirm the public health recommendations that we currently have or adjust them if appropriate, if we see data that's showing that we need to make updates to them. There are also a set of sensors. You want to speak to the envirus suite? Sorry, I turned it off.
Sure, yeah, thank you, Marcus. And, thanks for the question. So the city has an EnviroSuite platform, which is sensors that are out in the community. There are currently 11 sensor locations in and around Kalamazoo neighborhoods, the east side, north side, and then going out all the way out to that top of the glacial moraine out on 6th and G, so out in Oshawa Township.
All right. Can you tell people how wonderful these sensors are that they're talking about?
They make excuses that why they're always down. Of course, the ones that read the highest parts per billion are down. Like they had 2 different ones that were down that they said fell down in completely separate locations. Like, come on. Like they both fell down at the same time in completely different locations. Like it's a crock of shit. Like that guy right there, like I called him out last night too, because he's a joke. That's the director of the wastewater plant. Like I overheard him telling an employee who I asked a ton of questions about Graphic Packaging's process, the wastewater plant. I just popped in on the wastewater plant one day. This guy was sweating through his shirt because I was asking him so many questions. And I came back in there because I forgot my pen. And I overheard that guy that was speaking, Director Baker of the wastewater plant, telling the employee who was speaking with me that they're liable, that they can be sued, and that he told me too much information. So, then I was like, wow, I can't trust him at all. Like, I can't trust anything. Like, even on their wastewater plant brochure, it has one of their outfalls with PFAS foam on the brochure because they are a huge PFAS polluter, the wastewater plant. PCBs, like, it's not just Graphic Packaging, it's the wastewater plant too. They have everybody, all these industries going through there, like Pfizer, Graphic Packaging, and they make money off this. I think they make $1 to $2 million a year treating waste for each company.
And by the way, obviously we care about the residents. Isn't there a pretty significant problem with actual employees going on to have cancer?
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Eagle brought a drone for like, I think it was 1 or 2 days. I don't even think it was one day. I don't remember how many days it was. It was a couple of days or a day. And they found high formaldehyde levels, and they put them that they were in parts. They on the report it was in parts per million, but like the MLive reporter that didn't go after you, Brad, he like looked at the data and he like called them up and said, hey, this is parts per million, not parts per billion. Like that means that the formaldehyde is above the health risk. And so all of a sudden MIOSHA comes in and puts formaldehyde monitors on the wastewater treatment plant employees. But they didn't for anyone, they didn't try to test formaldehyde in the neighborhood or test it at Graphic Packaging, just the wastewater plant. Why are you only flying? And then they just told me, oh, I asked them about the drone. I said, why did you only fly the drone over the wastewater plant? Why didn't you fly over Graphic Packaging in the neighborhood? And they said, because the wastewater treatment plant is the only one that gave them permission. Aren't you a regulatory authority? Why do you need permission?
Because we live in the United Corporations of America. Get your United Corporations of America shirt at statuscoup.com/store in time for the beach weather. Get your Status Coup swag. And I'll tell you the truth, Brandy. I was thinking about this. Colin, we should talk about this. I'm thinking of getting some type of United Poisoning of America or How to Get Away with Poisoning shirt that we could put in our gift store.
Good idea.
And we'll give a discount to communities that have been poisoned, which is pretty much everyone. Because
or stop poisoning us, because that's the thing. I even bought that billboard, another $1,000 out of my pocket. I put a billboard up by Western Michigan University so that more students would realize what's going on and not come there and get poisoned themselves. And Kalamazoo College, another private college, Kalamazoo Valley Community College, another college. And polluters donate to the Kalamazoo Promise, which gives kids free college. And so I had a billboard that said, clean up sacrifice zones. People are not disposable, with a little girl with an inhaler and then Graphic Packaging smokestacks in the background with the pollution. But did that help? No. And I thought it would put pressure on city officials. I think I put that up in 2021, a couple of years ago.
Unbelievable.
It was a blip board. Yeah. But yeah, I couldn't believe that every single thing I tried to do, like, it didn't help.
Let's play the next clip.
Hi, my name is Brandy Crawford. I'm the lead plaintiff in the lawsuit against Graphic Packaging. I'm also the one who has questioned every single thing all of these agencies done, the city of Kalamazoo officials, Julie Rogers, every politician who has not done anything to help us in the past 3 years while we were poisoned. Former North Side resident, still love everyone in the North Side. Still love everyone on the west side, east side, south side. I care about everybody being poisoned. Since James is on a roll here, Mr. Baker, I would like you to explain why in 2009 you did not fix the junction chamber then when you did your first gas study.
So that's part one. Let's play the next part.
I mean, I feel like if everyone would have known that there were gas leaks, coming from both plants in 2009, I know I would have never moved here, and then, we all should have known that. But my question for the health department is, which I've already met with you guys earlier, but I just want to, the asthma hospitalization rate, that's 4 years old. Graphic Packaging started their expansion up in February of 2022. The pollution, the poisons have spread over to other neighborhoods besides the environmental justice community in the north side, who already have a 14-year death gap, 91% environmental justice rate, which pretty much means, you're going to get cancer, respiratory disease if you live there. That's really not, said that much. Environmental racism, I didn't really notice that in the report either, because that's another thing that's happening. But I wonder if you're going to be doing studies as it relates to the increase in the poisons that Eagle allowed Graphic Packaging to get through their permit, and how that affects everyone's health starting from February 2022 to now.
Thank you. Great question. So the analysis that we did and the data years that we looked at was between 2016 and 2019. That was the most recent data at the time we began the analysis. It has, we do have updates to the analysis. It's not real time. Epidemiology data does have a lag, and it can take months to even several years sometimes to get analytic data sets that we can analyze for surveillance purposes. But in our upcoming follow-up analysis, we will include updated data through what's available as of now.
Thank you. John. Everyone is in here that's being poisoned by radioactive packaging in the wastewater plant. This is my other lawyer, John Beeson. If you guys want to sign up for the lawsuit when we leave, we have a lot more lawsuits to file because we can't count on any of these governmental officials or politicians to help save our lives. To help our health, we cannot count on them. For 3 years, I've begged for help. Begged. I've done everything I can. Civil rights protection, lawsuits, everything. Every meeting I called in, Mr. Anderson looked at me with the evil eyes. He does not care. None of these people. That's all they care about. So you guys sign up with him. If you want help, if you want money to get the hell away from it, excuse me, God, I know I'm the house of Lord. But if you want to get away from these evil politicians, these evil officials, make sure you sign up for this lawsuit. That's all I can tell you.
You know what? I'd call the police, but they're in on it too, because they exist to protect capitalism. It's unbelievable. I mean, you keep hearing this stuff. You know, I remember the Mail official a few clips ago. We're going to continue to do more studies. Then you hear from this woman, well, in public health or whatever, there's always a lag. Well, what are people supposed to do in the meantime while you put together more of your studies that are going to
need to be poisoned?
That are going to take another, what, year, 2 years?
Well, if that was 4 years old, then what are they going to wait? Another 4 years for that one?
Because we're not talking like you can have an odor that is burdensome, but is not a health hazard.
Right.
But we're talking about odor that is causing severe asthma, bronchitis, COPD, heart disease. I believe it's linked to the cancer
But
rate.
it's not just the odor. That's what I told them in the private meeting I had with them. What about the chemicals that have no odor that are toxic? And they admitted, yes, there are chemicals that have no odor that are toxic, that you will not be able to tell by smelling that you are being poisoned. They admitted it to me.
And by the way,
my lawyer.
Why would you need more time? You had 3 years.
Right.
What do you need to study more? You're not talking about studying like a full state's gas emissions at various plants. You're talking about one plant, one paper mill. You're talking about one plant, one paper mill. I don't understand what they've been doing for 3 years. It's insane. And
sitting on their ass and hoping that everybody forgets.
And by the way, in the health study, which I think it's in one of these clips, their recommendation, there's no discussion about even temporarily shutting down the plant. Their
they should already
recommendation
be
is
relocating people. This is a Superfund site, Jordan. The whole neighborhood is a Superfund site. Under EPA law, if the human beings live in a Superfund site, they're supposed to relocate them. Why are they not doing this? Hello, EPA. Do your fucking job. It's not just the state. Like everybody, come on.
The EPA is a little busy right now covering up their role in East Palestine, but that's a whole nother story.
And they're covering this up.
But what's incredible, and thank you for the super chats. We are going to read them, so keep them coming. And by the way, members call 6 hours from now. Get your whiskey, green tea, kombucha, weed, whatever. 7 o'clock Eastern. Our monthly members call. I'm sorry to say, you have to be a paying member. It's through Zoom. StatusCoup.com/join. Do you see anybody else going to Kalamazoo to cover people being poisoned, or Flint or East Palestine? It costs money, folks. StatusCoup.com/join. You could sign up for 16 cents a day or 33 cents a day. So $5 a month equates to 16 cents a day, and $10 a month equates to 33 cents a day.
It's cheaper than a Starbucks or a Big B coffee that everybody buys every day.
That's right. So, well, let's keep going. let's play the next clip, Colin.
That was all the ones I had.
Okay, never mind. So it's really incredible. A few things I'd like to ask you about before we wrap up. Number one, would you say now about 150 people turned out?
Yeah.
But would you say that the majority of the community, particularly on the north side, because one of the struggles has been making sure people know it's coming from here. A lot of people know about the odor, but weren't aware that it was coming from here. Would you say now, after the health study came out, after this town hall, that there's a lot more awareness in the community that this is coming?
I'd say
from
there's a lot
Graphic
more
Packaging?
awareness throughout the city and everything in the community. But I'm telling you, like the African American community, just like they feel like that no one cares because no one's cared about them for all types of reasons for so many years. So racism is like real in so many different aspects of their life that they give up. Like I still have people telling me like they see nothing happening and they just give up. And it's just so sad, you know, it's just, they give up. But like, I mean, I wish I could give up. I don't want to be on high blood pressure medicine being an activist. I don't like that I just had to take a Valium just to do this interview with you because my post-traumatic stress disorder is activated to the highest point of my life.
And also just to come and do the interview when I was there, 3 weeks ago,
I got sicker. Yeah. My asthma, my went to the asthma doctor the other day and they have to prescribe me prednisone because my asthma is out of control just from being there 1 hour. And it's been controlled for the past few years. And they're like, what did you do? I'm like, I went to Kalamazoo for 1 hour and, you know, like I'm on all kinds of inhalers and Singular, which is supposed to clear your lungs. I'm on all these medications and just going there for 1 hour, I have to get on prednisone, which is horrible for you too. Like a drug I don't want to ever take, even if it's a 3 or 5 day dose, you know, I just still don't want to take it. It makes you gain weight and you feel like crap.
Yeah, you gain weight.
Mm-hmm. But the stress makes you gain weight. My cortisol levels are high. Like everything is so stressful. Like I'm so worried about my health. My health got worse dealing with them. Like I said, like I got sick from the plants, but like my stress levels and being on blood pressure medicine is because of the government not helping. Like, gaslighting me, lying to me, not helping, no response from people that can help, like just like the constant phone calls and emails and messages I get on Facebook from everyone begging for help and asking for updates on the lawsuits or my civil rights complaints and telling me their stories about their grandkids or their kids being in the hospital all the time or they're in the hospital all the time. Like it's draining. And just today I was crying so much because like like all these kids in daycare and school, they can't go outside. Like it said in the health report, like that kids are going to be poisoned worse. And I just don't understand like how people can just like not want to help everyone like this. It's just the saddest thing. And that's why I can't give up because I don't want to see people die. I don't want to see people get sick and die anymore. I'm just so tired of this.
Well, this is as real as it comes, folks. And I can tell you, I mean, unfortunately, I've had a lot of discussions on camera, off camera with people that, like you, that are hitting a wall. Because for me, you know, I cover a lot of different things, environmental stuff, but also politics. So I get to escape it from time to time, right? But you don't. In your case, this made you move from Kalamazoo. I mean, you're still kind of the top activist, but you left Kalamazoo because it was making you and your family sick. But this is 24/7 really for you, because even though you're not technically living there anymore, you're still having serious health problems as a result of living there. The activism you do is pretty much 24/7. The lawsuits you're involved with is pretty much 24/7. I mean, there's a very, very, very thin line between physical and mental health. And they kind of intersect. And when your physical health is affected, I mean, I've had fatigue for many years. When your physical health is affected, your mental health is going to go. So
my sleep, I get nightmares that I'm still like trapped in the gas chamber with my child. I worry about like the long-term health impacts that the health department didn't put in the consultation on purpose. I feel like, I mean, there's so many things that I'm stressed and worried about, and that everyone else in the community and in the city of Kalamazoo is worried about. And I just don't understand like why there is no like public health emergency even declared yet. Like, I just don't understand. Like, there's no declaration of a public health emergency to bring in help to relocate people. Like, they're not going to shut down graphic packaging. If they were going to do it, they would have done it by now. So what can you do? Give people money to leave. Like, otherwise the only way people are going to get help is through these lawsuits. That's why I filed one as soon as I got the gas study, but court takes a while. It's been I filed it September 1st, 2020. I found the gas studies in June 30th of 2020. So I knew that the law was the only thing I could use. I just knew what I was up against because they were ignoring me. And finally they started talking to me, but it was just like gaslighting the whole time. And so that's why I brought another attorney. Now we're suing graphic packaging, but we can't just sue graphic packaging. We have to sue the city of Kalamazoo. We have to sue the state. We have to sue the EPA. We have to sue the county health department, the Michigan department. Everyone that's involved in this has to be sued and be held accountable under law so that people can get money through the lawsuits to leave, because they're not going to help us. Like, it's clear as day at that town hall meeting. They're not going to help anyone. The consultation, like, you don't just tell people they have to stay in their fucking house and that's your solution as a state health department. You don't tell people, and they told me at the meeting, like the private meeting I had with them, we're staying on this until the hydrogen sulfide. They still keep focusing on hydrogen sulfide because it's unregulated gas, but they said that they're going to stay on this until the hydrogen sulfide gets below 1.4 parts.
I think what you refresh again. We lost your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It's never going to happen. If the levels are 80 parts per billion, how is it going to get below 1.4?
And we lost you for a minute. So what you were saying was the allowable limit is 1.4 parts per billion, but just on Wednesday, it was at 80 parts per billion at like 2 a.m. Yeah.
And they don't have enough monitors in the neighborhood either.
And they don't have carbon filters.
And they don't have carbon, like none. Like, it's like, and they have an open air wastewater clarifier. They have this junction chamber that I questioned the director of the wastewater. And he lied too. I said, I saw a report where you put off this junction chamber, which has been malfunctioning since 2009, which carries the graphic packaging waste. He said they're eliminating it, but they're not eliminating it till like the end of the year or next year. But this is a pipe that should have been eliminated or replaced in 2009. So I questioned him about that, because why did you let graphic packaging put a freaking parking lot in for their expansion when you could have replaced the pipe then or eliminated it then? I saw it in the notes, and he tried to say, oh, I don't believe that. Like, look at your own odor should be toxic gas meetings where you guys talked about it. Your engineers talked about putting it off, and that's one of the main pipes that's leaking out toxic gases that's killing people in the city or poisoning them.
Also, before we go, I think there's a really important point that I guess the Michigan media, who doesn't seem to have any kind of investigative interest, maybe somebody should ask, why is it that when up until now, the biggest environmental calamity of the 21st century, Flint, I think Kalamazoo is getting there. Why is it that Governor Whitmer kept in place in the health department and the environmental department a lot of the same people that helped cover up the Flint water crisis? What is the point? What is the point of voting for Democrats if they are keeping in people that were silent or actively participating in the covering up of the poisoning of fellow Michiganders east of you? So what do you expect there's going to be major differences in the health department, the environment? Yeah, you expect there's going to be major differences in the environmental department, the health department, whatever, if you're keeping in the same people that were complicit
She's
I
had
mean,
the same
no.
director of air quality for like, I think Mary Ann Dolhanty is the director of air quality for Environmental Great Lakes and Energy. I think she's been there more than 30 years. So she knows what the hell is going on. And then they let the director go recently of Eagle, but then they put in the deputy director who's married to the tax unit manager at Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Like, come on now. You guys can't testify against each other in court. You're going to sit there and cover up the shit together. Like, you're not at home talking about, oh yeah, we better make sure this health consult. She's probably telling him, I'll make sure this health consultation comes out and it's not really bad because I don't want you to go to jail for never doing any enforcement against graphic packaging. I'm going to protect you because you're my husband. I'm not going to protect the community because you're my husband and you never did any enforcement against graphic packaging all these years. It's not, they've been there 100 years, 100 years of no enforcement. The first fine graphic packaging ever got was like a few months ago.
We will stay on this. As viewers could tell you, I'm kind of a stubborn motherfucker. I tend to stay on stories, even if not a lot changes, because at the end of the day, I feel a responsibility. I think it's crazy that ABC News, CNN producers, reporters are emailing with you, yet they're not doing much. They got way more resources than Status Coup does. They could be
E&E is an environmental national. Like, I've talked to so many reporters that they still haven't covered it. I think they covered no, they still haven't. I don't even think they did my civil rights complaint, which they cover those too. Like when they're against like state environmental. I don't know what it is. I feel like everybody's in cahoots with each other, or they're either protecting the state government or graphic packaging or both. Like, it's something about this company that is really corrupt. I mean, it's all corruption, but this company in particular, I feel in my heart of hearts that because they're $1 billion corporation, they've paid people off. Like, how can you sleep at night? Like, you see people getting sick and dying. How do you sleep at night? Unless you got $1 million or $2 million in your bank account over the years, or maybe they give them, I don't know, stipends. Here's $50,000 to keep your mouth shut this year, another $100,000 the next year. Like, I don't know. We won't know until the public corruption unit at the FBI, if they do actually finish their investigation, and we'll see. I guess the Department of Justice, everybody that's supposedly investigating this, we'll see. But like what Flint didn't really, those arrests, what everyone got got charged, but no one got jail time.
We'll stay on it. Thank you for joining us. Try to get away from this for a day or two. I know it's hard, but try to do something mind-numbing because you can't be on it 24/7. I've had to learn that, and it's better for your health to, not be doing it 20%. Thank you, Brandy. The audience appreciates it, and we'll definitely stay on it. So, yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Don't go anywhere because we're now going to take some calls, do the old call-in part of this program. As a reminder, in 6 hours now will be our monthly members call. Welcome new Status Coup members signed up during that interview. New member Alon, or is that Alone? Alone, same. Just signed up through YouTube. So you will get the link through a community post a little bit later, new member, for our members call, which is tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern on Zoom. That means that we have added now 66 new members this month, where our goal is 100 new members. So we're definitely on target. We got 10 or 11 days left in the month. And we need to keep adding paid members if we're going to be able to afford continued on-the-ground reporting. If you came to this late, we also, I think yesterday, paid for a new live view, which was, it gives me nausea. $15,000 for this new live view, which is our broadcasting unit. That's how we broadcast on the ground. We needed 2, which I could explain more in the call tonight. But it was a significant expense that we technically have in our bank, but is going to set us back and take away money for traveling and reporting. But that's how much things cost. So now we have 2 live views, which is definitely helpful to cover more things and spread out a little more, where Lewis and Colin down south can cover things live. And I have one up here, but it costs a lot of money. So if you can sign up, statuscoup.com/join. $5 to $10 a month makes a huge, huge difference. Please, please, please. This always works terribly. Boomer tech skills, Jordan. If you have any problems with the members call, don't call me. Email info@statuscoup.com and Colin will help you with troubleshooting. Now, before we start taking calls, I have an update. Since we just had a very depressing hour, I just want to show what I think is an uplifting image. If we could show my daughter and her wardrobe. So that is baby Lily today. Ain't no daddy like the one I got. My daughter, 6 months old. Well, her 6-month-old birthday was last week, but I always ask my wife if I could show pictures of her. She usually doesn't let me, but I demanded to show this adorable outfit that says, ain't no daddy like the one I got. She's doing well, besides all the spitting up, but she's a happy baby. She's teething, so keeping us up at night, but she's doing great. I'm trying to get her to say, dada, dada. And pretty soon I'm going to take her on the road, whether my wife likes it or not. So there you go. All right, let's get to the calls. If you could put it on the screen, the number, Colin. Take your calls on anything. So you want to talk about that story in Kalamazoo. You want to talk about other things, whatever's on your mind. I am doing it. All right, connect to show. All right. I am connected as I'm sharing it here. I think I did it right, Colin. Did I do it right?
Or yes.
All right.
I'm pulling it up now. Let me get in here.
She'll be a little activist. And don't be shy. Call in. Whatever you want to talk about is fine with me. We'll take a few calls. And again, Tina will be live at 5 o'clock Eastern with her show. She's got a lot of great topics today. And then the members call at 7 o'clock Eastern. So busy day here at Status Coup. But I do like taking your calls.
I'm adding the number now. I don't know what happened to my banner, so one sec. Okay. Here's the link. I'll put that in the chat as well.
And while we're waiting, I'll read some super chats. Well, I guess I can't show both, so I'll read them at the end. Call in 818-794-7004. Oh, we have our first caller here. I don't know who that is. It doesn't say a name.
That is me.
Oh, that is you. So I will, should I drop you or mute you?
You can drop me because I can hear it.
Okay. All right. Who's going to be the first caller? Don't be shy. You in the San Fernando Valley? I don't know where that comes from. I guess it's just whatever number they gave us. Harker Heights. Is that still you, Colin? Yeah, that's you. While I'm waiting for somebody to call, let me look at something. Happy tourist season. Oh, apparently that story that Fox News was going crazy about was totally fake. Would you look at that? Oh, you can't make these things up. All right, folks, if nobody's going to call, I'm going to go take my afternoon nap. Homeless vet story eaten up by Fox News turns out to be spectacularly false. Their story on the influx of migrants, nearly 24 homeless veterans being kicked out of hotels so that migrants can stay there, was surprisingly not true. Surprisingly not true. Go figure. Are you seeing any callers, Colin? I'm shocked that we have so many shy people. Last time,
Nothing yet. Yeah.
Last time we couldn't shut down the phone lines. Are people sleeping?
It's Friday. Everyone's they're not ready for the public. Oh, we got one.
We got one? I just see Harker Heights. Is that?
There's well, it depends if they join. They're still joining. We'll wait and see.
All right. Well, while we're waiting, I'll read super chats here. Thank you. JG. This message comes from both Tony and me. Brandy is awesome. Thank you for the $10. Brandy, you're a hero. That was Tresa273 with the $5. Caitlin, $10. Brandy, thank you. You've done so much for Kalamazoo. I'm from Vicksburg and had no idea what was going on. Everyone I talked to had no idea. We hear you now and are listening, which is why Status Coup exists. It's always just crazy to me how people that live in these communities have no idea of the environmental poisoning going on, of the corruption going on. The local news isn't telling them. Certainly the national news isn't telling them. It's just crazy. Humorous, $50. And by the way, Colin will email you today. I gave him your email. So
I already emailed already.
All right. So whatever problem you're having with membership, we'll take care of it. The shadows of our past and the knowledge of our present can dictate our future. It is not there. We as human species have no future unless we start taking care of each other and taking care of the planet that takes care of us. That is profound, deep, and accurate. And I do think we need to take care of each other. I think we need less division and realize that for the most part, we're all on the same side. We're all dealing with the same thing. Tony is calling. Let's see if this works. You there, Tony?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Great. I have a random question I wanted to ask.
Okay.
I was 18 back when Bill O'Reilly lied about this abortion doctor, and then he ended up assassinated.
Dr.
I just wanted to ask
Dr.
you,
Tiller, right?
Yeah, and do you think there's a scenario where someone could have sued Bill O'Reilly in a court of law and then held him guilty for that, or would that not have held up?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because it really depends. Like, that's kind of a mix of like technical state versus federal law on the inciting of violence, right? So Fox is filmed in New York, so you'd have to look at New York law versus federal law. You'd have to look at specific language because it has to be very, very like I think technically Alex Jones more likely could have been sued for direct language that told people go get your guns. The Civil War is coming. I think Alex Jones, they're both hard cases to make, but Alex Jones, it would be a little bit easier of a case because I've heard him say, get your guns, gather at town square, they're coming for you. And there's more of a straight line between people, Alex Jones supporters possibly committing violence. O'Reilly, I don't know if he ever specifically said anything. I mean, he could have said things that made kooky people made the killer, set the killer off. But I don't know if there's anything that would stick in terms of him telling people, saying, well, somebody needs to take action into their own hands. If he said something like that, possibly.
It's hard to know if he planned that.
Right. And the way Fox News is going these days, Bill O'Reilly was relatively tame compared to Tucker Carlson and whatever the hell they're going to replace him with. Because Fox is, I mean, I worked at Fox as my first job out of school in 2008. And it is like, it's 10 times worse than when I was there. And it was pretty bad when I was there.
Oh.
Did
the
we lose?
Tea Party has changed a little what we have now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I honestly, like, I'm surprised, actually. I'm not surprised, but I mean, towards the end, the shit that Tucker Carlson was spewing was so just straight in your face white supremacy, like not even really coded, that I'm surprised he lasted as long as he did. Because all these, you know, quote unquote lefties that pretend they're lefties, but are really just kind of, you know, pandering to the right wing, the Jimmy Dores, the Glenn Greenwalds of the world. They were never calling him out for this stuff. And they pretended that, like, oh, he's the only one covering X, Y, and Z. Yeah, he covered a couple issues and let people come on and let them talk about their issues so that he could get them to bash the Democratic Party. It's not because he like passionately cares about Julian Assange or freedom of the press. He brought people on that are on paper lefties, but just bash the Democratic Party, liberalism, et cetera, and he let them kind of push their pet issues. But I mean, the white supremacy, the great replacement stuff, the, you know, they're invading about the immigrants, all this stuff. I mean, I think Tucker Carlson is the media equivalent of Trump. I think he saw the opening, which was all of these kind of people who have been negatively affected by deindustrialization and that are susceptible to looking for someone to blame. Even good people. I mean, I've met Trump supporters. They're not all terrible people. A lot of them are just like factory workers or blue collar workers that have been sucked in by this culture war shit, and that Mexicans are taking your jobs or Muslims are taking your jobs or whatever. And I think Tucker Carlson, I mean, there's been reports about Tucker Carlson that this was never how he was before he got that Fox News show. I think it's all theater. I think it's a shapeshifter. And I think he kind of warped into this persona because he saw where the political winds were going, which is kind of what Trump did. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine they're going to have someone worse than Tucker Carlson in there, but you never know. Maybe so.
If he really cared about Assange, he could have gone to a protest or covered the Assange protest on his show.
Right. Well, I can tell you that he felt it necessary and got Fox to send him to Brazil to try and help get Bolsonaro reelected. I don't know if you remember that. He went to Brazil. He did a absurd interview with Glenn Greenwald, who like sat there and nodded and like tried to make it seem like the real censorship is cable, like big tech outlets censoring Bolsonaro, and Bolsonaro tried to throw Glenn Greenwald into jail. By the way, I mean, obviously I should say sympathies to Glenn, who recently lost his husband, whatever our disagreements are. That's terrible. And, you know, condolences to his family. But yeah, it's just, I mean, Tucker at the time when he was there, if he said, I want to go to London and cover Julian Assange, he could have. So, you know, and to me, the issue is never quote unquote leftist going on Tucker Carlson. If Tucker Carlson invited me to come on, I would go on. The difference is I would push whatever issue I want to push. And also I would push back on what I think are dangerous things he's doing. And if it means you don't get invited back, then so be it. I mean, that's just what it is. So, I mean, I wouldn't force it, but if he has me on, let's say to cover Flint, I would go on, I would do my thing. And then at the end, I said, I would probably say, and Tucker, thank you. I would love to see you cover this more than pushing bigotry and white supremacy and, you know, the great replacement theory, this and that. The truth is, it's possible they would edit it out. It's possible they would edit out that part. or whatever. But to me, it's just painful to watch quote unquote leftists that people say are leftists go on there and they kind of compartmentalize in their head. Yeah, we'll just kind of like ignore the white supremacy part, the great replacement part, which is anti-Semitic and bigoted, the anti-immigrant part. We'll pretend he's anti-war, even though like he's quote unquote anti-war about Ukraine. But he didn't say anything when Trump was president and Trump was sending Ukraine weapons. Anybody remember that? That's mysteriously was not mentioned by Tucker Carlson. If he's so anti-war in Ukraine, why wasn't he saying anything about Trump arming Ukraine? If he's so anti-war, why is he chomping at the bit? He's basically saying it doesn't seem like he's anti-war. It seems like he says we're in the wrong war. We need to be saving up, and we need to be preparing for war with China. And it seems to me, whether it's Tucker Carlson or Marjorie Taylor Greene, seems like they're anti-war when it is Joe Biden as president. I mean, I'm anti-war.
Exactly.
I'm anti-war. So like, it's kind of good that they are anti-war, but they kind of forget like who invaded who. You know, the Jimmy Dores of the world and a lot of other people never seem to mention that, oh, Russia was provoked. Okay. I mean, a lot of people get provoked. Countries, humans. That doesn't mean that you don't criticize the person who illegally invaded another country and has been committing, in my view, genocide. You could still say Russia was lied to. The Soviet Union was promised that NATO would not expand beyond reunified Germany. Obviously, Russia was lied to. Obviously, they have legitimate grievances, but you can, at the same time, I know nuance isn't a sexy thing on the internet. It doesn't get a lot of clicks, but you can, at the same time, admonish Vladimir Putin for initiating this war and killing a lot of innocent people. I mean, I just think objectively those two things are true. But anyway, sorry, I went on a long rant when you asked me about Bill O'Reilly. So thank you so much for calling and for your support. All right, now we're getting some calls. John, you're up. Why is this call not calling? Talk.
Hello.
Hey there. Why is this call not? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey there.
Oh, I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah, we're hearing an echo. Yeah, we're hearing.
I'm calling because in Chicago, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's this community called South Shore. It's on the black side of town where our fearless Emmanuel Lewis closed a lot of schools. Mm-hmm. They just up and decided to bus in hordes of these migrants, but they didn't tell the people living there. The people living there wanted to use the school for their own community. Now the city is swooping in and saying, hey, we're going to turn this into Tijuana. But no one's really talking about it.
Yeah. Is that one of the migrant buses that Texas governor sent up?
But no one's really talking about it.
Yeah. Is that the Texas governor sent up?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a tough situation because at the end of the day, I don't subscribe to the Republican insane fear on immigration. I think there are problems with our immigration system. I do think there's, obviously violence that happened at the Arizona border, Texas border. I do think we need some type of sensible immigration plan. However, it's also a problem when these governors, for political purposes, are sending immigrants and migrants to New York City, to Martha's Vineyard, to Chicago, who already have issues with homeless people, poor people, education, and don't have the capacity to house these migrants, to treat them with dignity. and really need to focus on their own citizens, like I think is what you're saying. The devil's advocate might say to me, well, Jordan, that's the point. They're making a point. If the Chicago government or the New York City government or so-and-so can't handle them, why are we expecting Texas to handle them or Arizona to handle them or border states to handle them? I get the point, but the answer is not just send human beings to other states and like, we want them get off our lawn. We're just going to offload them onto other states. We need a sensible policy. And to tell you the truth, I actually don't think the Republicans want a sensible immigration policy. Just like I think the Democrats, frankly, I don't think they want a sensible abortion policy because they want these to continually serve as election issues. The Democrats want abortion to forever serve as a election issue that they could run on. That is why they won the midterms. It wasn't because of Biden. It was because Roe versus Wade was overturned. Just like Republicans want immigration to never be solved because it brings out their base. So I think we're going to have these problems, whether it's in Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C. We have a government that could come together and come up with a sensible immigration plan. Part of a sensible immigration plan is changing our foreign policy, because they don't talk about this on the news much, but a big reason why people from Central America, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba, whatever country you want to talk about are coming here is because we are through our drug war policies, our crippling sanctions, which are killing people, are driving them out of their countries and making them flee. That's not discussed on Fox News. That's not discussed even on CNN. We play a part in driving so many of these people out of their country, particularly Venezuela at this point. So I don't know if that answered your question.
That definitely helps because no one wants to do anything sensible. It's easy, red button, red herring, fresh meat, dog whistle type deal. But it's so bad, they've got people sleeping in police stations and out at the airport. I mean, there's no room. They've already lost their mind about it.
Right. I agree. And it's a problem both for the migrants that they're sending here, but also the people that live in these communities, because at the end of the day, people that need these services that live in Chicago or New York City shouldn't be displaced for migrants, and the migrants shouldn't be ping-ponged around like they're, cargo. So yeah, I don't know the answer. I think there's been some sensible legislation in the past decade or two for bipartisan immigration reform. But I really think the Republicans don't want it to remain as a voting issue. And that's why they won't do anything. And let's face it, a big portion of their base, not all Republicans, I know Republicans that aren't like bigoted or racist, but there are a certain percentage that just don't like Mexicans. I don't know how else to say it. So yeah, thank you so much for calling. Appreciate it. And reminder before we take the next call, we are about 5.5 hours away from our members call, which will be tonight at 7:00 Eastern. So definitely sign up. We've gotten one new member so far today, but we'd love to get some more member signups before our call tonight. It's at 7:00 Eastern, 4:00 Pacific through Zoom. If you are a paid member through our website, statuscoup.com/join, you will get an email with the Zoom link, usually about a half hour before the call, so like 6:30 Eastern. If you're a patron through Patreon, you'll get an email with the link. If you are a member through YouTube, you'll get the link through a community post on our community tab here on YouTube. So definitely sign up. We prefer you sign up to our website. If you're going to sign up, statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for $5 to $10 a month. Let me take the next caller, Caitlin from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Hey there.
So I put that I wanted to talk about Kalamazoo, but I actually found you guys through East Palestine. And I was listening to everything that was being reported about it. And so a little backstory, I don't know if I just have common sense, which I thought it was, but in 2014, I joined the National Guard. And my first job was a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear specialist.
Wow.
And really, a lot of people joke that you're like a glorified car washer, but you are taught how to detect all these different chemicals. And so from the beginning, when they were telling everybody to go back, it just blew my mind. Like, I don't have any great knowledge. All I was doing was taking these detectors out, looking for chemicals. But I could very obviously understand each detector, you're detecting for one chemical. Or if you're doing radiation, you have to put different heads on to detect different things. I mean, detecting for these things, I mean, we went to school for 10 weeks for it. I mean, it's not easy stuff. So it just blew my mind. And that's why I just kept searching and searching. And you guys were the only ones reporting on anything. But I don't know. It just blew my mind.
Well, I can't really get into like full details, but what Lewis and I are working on, I've been working on it now for like a week and a half, is a story and on East Palestine. We're digging into something because to me, I never bought what Norfolk Southern was claiming about the controlled burn and the need to blow up 5 cars of vinyl chloride. It never really made sense to me. I mean, I'm not a chemist, but just it didn't make sense to me. That was the first.
Well, one thing I heard you mention once is I think you said you had talked to someone in Flint, and they talked about how there's this detector that basically they can detect whatever's in a fluid.
Mhm.
Well, when I went through school, we went through, I believe it was like 10 weeks long. And at the very end, after we went through everything, they brought out this fancy piece of equipment. And they're like, well, you're never going to see it, but here's a piece of equipment. And it had a bunch of different vials. And yeah, you could put anything in it, and it could like read the cell, like the structures that were in it to tell you exactly everything that's in it. It just blows my mind that we possess this technology. And then when things like this happen, we don't take it and utilize it. Like it absolutely blows my mind.
Well, there's other things that are going to blow your mind if what I think happened. And Lewis and I have been kind of pounding the pavement the last few days trying to talk to people. But if what we think happened and what was the real cause of all of this in East Palestine happened, it's quite possibly the worst corporate environment crime in American history. And I try not to oversell things, but if what we think happened, I can't think of anything worse. I want to be careful what I say, but let's just say it seems like there were some intentional things that went on with this derailment, and then whatever they want to call it, controlled burn, which isn't a real thing. There's no way to control a burn, as you could see through that plume. But yeah, there's a lot of things that don't make sense. And then you have the media, which in this country we've become a country that, look at it. I mean, I'm covering real things, and we have 100 viewers, right? If I were to change it up and just cover like bullshit and sensationalism, I'd have 1,000 viewers. But we've become a country that people get massacred in school, and then the media doesn't cover it for more than a day or two. We've become a country that basically there's a mini Chernobyl over a village, and the media covers it for a week, and then other than short updates, doesn't cover it anymore. I mean, it's basically us, and I think News Nation, which is a news channel that not everyone has. They've been kind of covering it still, but that's not acceptable. That's kind of why we exist, because we have this large opening because the mainstream media doesn't stay on these stories. But I don't know, as a journalist, like I didn't go to grad school for journalism. I didn't even go to journalism school. But what really could be more important as a journalist than the life or death of Americans, right? Like what is more important if you're covering than life or death and people's health? To me, that's the most important story to cover. And it just so happens that it mixes in quite well with corruption. But I don't get it. I'm talking to residents every day. They're actually getting sicker. Like a lot of residents, for example, that Lewis and I are talking to, have managed to get out of town, whether they're staying at hotels or getting reimbursed, or are staying with families somewhere out of East Palestine, and their symptoms get better because they're not in the area. But for example, they did a community meeting this week, like a town hall. And I mean, I'm in a group chat. I'm just watching, But people are saying just being in East Palestine for 2 hours, they came back, nosebleeds, their eyes are burning, their cough acts up again. This is 3.5 months later. So obviously there is a major contamination issue. Obviously, the testing that the EPA is doing, that they are showing an all clear, is bullshit. If you look back through American history, in 1983, let me make sure I have the town right. But in 1983, in Times Beach, Missouri, there was a major environmental disaster that released dioxins. Remember, the EPA didn't want to test for dioxins at first in East Palestine. Well, in 1983, there was a major dioxin contamination, and they had to evacuate Times Beach, Missouri. And it's been since then. It's in St. Louis County. Since then, it's been a ghost town. Nobody lives there anymore. And that is why, in my opinion, the EPA doesn't want to test for dioxins, because you're going to find dioxins, which is a byproduct of combusting things like vinyl chloride. And you're going to find it in large numbers if you test for it. And then it's very expensive to clean that up. And by the way, you can't really clean it up. I've spoken with chemists. It would take over 10 years for that really to leave the environment. So yeah, I think this is a major story. Kudos to Lewis, who obviously, he's down in Texas, but he's been there 3 times, which you guys are paying for as paying members. He is not just working on this when he's there. He's working on this when he's not there. I've been working on it with him, but obviously Lewis has been kind of the lead reporter on this. So yeah, we're going to stay on it because it's not the sexy story. Unfortunately, it's not the story that it's for whatever reason, these kind of stories don't go viral. I think I know the reason, which YouTube and other big tech platforms suppress these kind of stories and don't really elevate these kind of stories in their algorithm. They'd rather elevate other stuff. But these are the most important things to cover, in my opinion. Did I lose her? You still there, Caitlin? All right. I don't know if I just talked too much and she had to go or if we lost her. I'll give it a couple more seconds. All right. Definitely come back if you want. We got a couple more here. Humorous. You there, Humorous?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. How you doing, sir? You there? Did we just lose Humorous? Colin, do you see Humorous in there?
Looked like he had dropped. So we'll keep an eye if he comes back here.
Wait, I think I see him. You there, Humorous?
Are you there or not?
I'm there. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing?
This is not the greatest technology that we have.
Well, I will say it's a little better than call-in, which we were using before, but yeah, it wasn't working for us. And now,
well, I mean, it worked, and then you went away. It says right here when I'm talking to you that you will have 10 seconds to click a button that they put up, but the button never comes up. You just apparently click your button, and I can talk.
it's a conspiracy. What can I say? We'll blame Colin.
I don't know.
We'll blame.
I don't know. I don't know anything what's true or false anymore.
Well, you want to know what? I'm glad that you are still living in the fascist state of Florida, and you've made it out alive. Because this governor, I think, is a little mini Mussolini wannabe. The way he's acting.
Oh, dude, he's far beyond Mussolini. I mean, this isn't even a state. You just called this a state. This is a brand new country of totally fascist fools that literally have no clue or conception of what reality is.
It's scary, man. And
it's very scary to be here. Why do you think I live in the woods?
I don't blame you. And I think, he's...
Hey, bro, it's the only place I can hide from these crazy people.
Well,
I mean, they're literally... Look, does anyone know what lemmings are? For some reason, they run off of cliffs into the ocean. Well, they all ran off the cliff. They just haven't reached the ocean yet.
I think that he's announcing his presidential run this coming week. I think the media is going to cover real issues even less so that they could cover the professional boxing match between Trump and DeSantis. My expectation is Trump will probably knock him out in the 4th round because DeSantis is a lightweight when it comes to DeSantis is strong on actually executing on the fascist policy, but he's not strong enough in terms of the verbal presentation. I think when he is in his own kind of contained media environment that he controls, he does okay. But when he's out there in Iowa and elsewhere, from what I could see, he's one awkward motherfucker, and he doesn't have the kind of personal pizzazz that Trump has. So I don't really see DeSantis really catching on. And I think the culture war can only take you so far, honestly, even in the Republican primary. It might do well in Florida, but at a certain point, you have to present a plan to lower inflation. You have to present a plan for, higher wages. I don't see anything from him. I mean, what has been his economic plan in Florida other than your standard Republican give corporate blowjobs to all the corporations, give them massive tax cuts? There's a property tax problem in Florida. Housing is out of control. Rentals are out of control. I think Tampa, Orlando, Miami are some of the highest rental rates in America. I think his little, maybe among the anti-vaxxers, he's popular because he's been kind of catering to the anti-vax, anti-quote lockdown crowd. But that's relatively a small percentage of America. So if he wins the Republican primary, I think it's because Trump probably dropped out and made a deal to avoid jail time. If it's DeSantis versus Biden, I think DeSantis sadly could win because I think Biden is that weak. But I don't really see him beating Trump. And more importantly, I would love to know what's going on in Florida. I went to college there. It was always kind of a swing state, but it has gotten so right wing in the last 5-6 years that it's really scary. Did we lose them again? Yeah, we got to figure out why we keep losing callers. It's weird. Didn't happen last time we were on, so maybe it's a problem now. It seems like when I start talking for a little bit, they drop off. So I don't know what that's about. We'll take let's see. Humorous, you there?
Are you still there?
I'm still there, yeah.
Did you hear what I said, or did it hang up?
I didn't hear what you said.
All right. I don't even remember now.
I was basically saying I don't think he could beat Trump, but if he happens to win the nomination, I do think he could beat Biden.
Who? Trump? Yeah.
No. I'm saying I don't think DeSantis will beat Trump, but if DeSantis happens to win the nomination, I do think he could beat Biden.
Oh, DeSantis will never beat Trump. That dude he's the king of evil. So.
Yep.
I mean, holy crap. I love how everyone wants to make this a Christian nationalist country, but their own book describes Trump like down to the letter.
It is going to be a epic fight between a used car salesman, carnival barker, and a mini Mussolini wannabe. But I got to say, it's really a reflection also of the Democratic Party in Florida that DeSantis has done so well. Because I think DeSantis is beatable. Other than the culture war shit, I don't see anything that DeSantis has done to really improve anybody economically, on healthcare, inflation. But he's getting them with the culture war shit, which is very dangerous, particularly when you're an LGBT person or student in Florida, a transgender individual, or any type of minority. So,
how about just a plain student?
Yeah.
He's literally implementing plans that literally dumb down our children so that they cannot have the knowledge to fight against him.
Right. It's a good point. It's a very good point.
Oh, I have many good points, bro. There isn't enough hours in the day for you and me to talk.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, I know you're kind of down in the dumps, but you do have a voice for radio, or a voice for one of those radio, those fireside chats. You kind of have the voice of God, if you believe in that kind of thing. Very deep.
I don't have the voice of God. I don't even believe in God.
All right, so
I don't believe in the devil. I don't. You know what I believe in? I believe in you. I believe in Steve Grumbine. I believe that truth.
Oh my God. He was giving us a great promo, Colin, and then he dropped off. Ugh, that's terrible. He was giving us such a great promotional sounding. He believes in us, but then he dropped off. Terrible. Well, we got to figure out something with this program. Colin, do you think it's the program or these people's connections?
It's hard to tell. The program doesn't really tell you what the source of the drop is. But
Right. All right, hold on. He's back. All right.
Still there?
You were giving us such a great promo saying you believe in me and Steve, and then you dropped off.
Yeah, this is becoming a pain in the butt.
I know. It didn't happen last time, so I'm wondering. We'll figure it out. But go on.
I'm just saying, man. It's like, I don't know where somewhere in my life, people stopped caring about each other and caring about the planet that literally takes care of them. People do not take care of themselves. They simply know how to manipulate the nature that takes care of them. So if we're going to continue to just not take care of each other or take care of this planet, there is no future for your children, your grandchildren, or anybody. And nobody seems to get that fact. That's why I support specific shows. That's why I contribute. That's why I spread them all over the internet. Believe me, bro, you are literally everywhere. You're on Fox News. You're on MSNBC. You are literally everywhere because I have people that put you everywhere.
Why, thank you. Yeah, it's always crazy to me, Colin and I, when we go on the road together. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone most of the time because I'm out covering these stories.
Because we live in the Twilight Zone, bro. These people anybody that thinks, look, let me explain something to everyone, okay? There is no difference between the GOP and the Democratic Party, other than the fact that the Democrats don't carry a shitload of AR-15s and want to kill you when you disagree with them. But otherwise, they're the same. They think the same. They worship the same money. They worship the same people that pay them. There is really no difference other than that, bro.
I agree. Well, will we see you tonight on the members club?
Hey, how's your wife? How's your wife and baby, man? I hope everything is good because I know you've been on the road a lot, and that,
My
your
wife.
your entire life must be stressful trying to get out what is truth and have nobody supporting that truth. That must be very frustrating to you.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, it's tough. My wife is a saint. She is very tired, as most new mothers are. We got a newborn. She has a time-consuming and stressful job. I'm working a lot. But we're doing good considering, and we definitely, it's worth it. With our daughter, who is incredible. But yeah, it is frustrating. I mean, even just trying to get a book published on the Flint water cover up. I mean, I've sent Colin some of my book. I've sent some friends some of the book that I've written. Maybe they're biased because they know me, but they tell me it's incredible. And that they didn't even know half the shit that is in my book because a lot of it hasn't been reported. But I've been shopping it around. I got one offer from like a small publisher that I didn't go with because it's the equivalent of just publishing it myself. And I really want to find a publisher that can help me get more media exposure on this, particularly for the decade anniversary next year of the water crisis. But it's like hitting your head against a wall. Here you have a massive story, in my view, the biggest environmental cover up of the 21st century, where people are slowly dying in Flint. And I'm told by agents and publishers, thanks, but we don't think this is, quote, commercially viable, meaning we don't think there's a market for it, meaning we don't think people really care or would pay money to buy a book on the Flint water cover up. When I explain to them why that's not true, I don't hear back. I have agents telling me, we think, we've read your stories and your reporting is amazing, but, this isn't for us. It's just crazy. But then you see the books that are published and it's so much drivel and bullshit. So yeah, it does get frustrating from a personal human level when you dedicate. I mean, sure, there is a separation between personal and professional, but like a lot of my personal life is dedicated to my profession, like it's not like I work 9 to 5. So it does personally upset me. Not that like, oh, I'm not getting a book published for my ego, but I want to get the book out there so people know the truth. And it is frustrating when you work so hard on these stories and because of the wider, in my view, sickness that is our media system, it's hard to get attention on it or even get it published. And I know other people have had this issue, not that I'm comparing myself, but the Chris Hedges of the world or Noam Chomsky, who I know there's been issues in the news recently about him, where you're just blacked out if you cover real things or you tell certain truths. But all I could do is keep trucking along and keep doing this as long as people will help support it financially and as long as people need it. They say they'll always need doctors and nurses because people will always be sick. And I think they'll always need journalists like what we do at Status Coup because unfortunately, most of these places and most of these stories will always be ignored by mainstream media. So I got to speed this up because we're going live again soon. So I'm going to take the last caller here. Thank you, Humorous.
You have a good day, my friend.
You too. Let me take Cheryl. You there, Cheryl? You there, Cheryl? You're calling from Canada, but we don't hear you. All right. Maybe we'll get Cheryl next time. We'll try Macy in Michigan. You there, Macy? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. You there, Macy? All right. So we'll figure it out. Maybe just people were waiting for a while, but had to go. Let me shut this down. Hang up. All right. Let me give a few updates before we go. Again, we got 1 new member. Can we get another new member before we sign off? By the way, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 hours from now. 4 hours from now is our monthly members call. So let me remind you one more time. If you are a member through our website, if you are a paying member through our Patreon, if you are a paying member through YouTube, you will get for the website or the Patreon, you'll get an email with the Zoom link. If you are a YouTube member, you'll get a link through the community tab. And it's at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. You should get an email about a half hour before the call or see a community post before about a half hour before the call. 7 o'clock Eastern, we'll go for an hour or 2. Hopefully we have a big audience because we did a poll seeing what time day was best for people. And the overwhelming majority said 7 o'clock on Friday. So hopefully we have a lot of members. I'm probably going to consume whiskey on this call. So you guys come with whatever you want, talk about whatever you want. Right now we have gained 66 new members for this month. Our goal is to gain 100 new members. Our goal is to gain 100 new members by the end of the month. So we are kind of on pace for that. If you are not yet a member, but have $5 to $10 a month to support real on the ground reporting, sign up and you could get our link tonight to our members call. That's actually 66 now. So we're, what is that? 34 new members away from gaining 100 for the month, which is awesome. So hopefully we get more people. Totally understand for those that, you know, for whatever reason, don't have the $5 to $10 a month. But for those that do, sign up. And one of the perks of membership is our monthly members call through Zoom. So reminder, Tina will be live at 5 o'clock Eastern. So a little less than 2 hours. She'll be joined by Walker Bragman. Let me see, because we texted earlier, so I know what she's talking about. She's going to be talking about dark money related to Steve Bannon and CPAC. She's going to be talking about a Republican senator saying white supremacy in the military is okay. Also coverage of RuPaul's drag show or DragCon. RuPaul is having, I guess, a drag show convention, and the right-wing religious people are not happy. So that will be at 5 o'clock Eastern, the Right-Wing Insanity Report, which is always a lot of fun, and Tina does a great job. So come back at 5 o'clock Eastern time, and I will see you guys at 7 o'clock Eastern for the members call. And if you have any questions about that, our email is info@statuscoup.com, info@statuscoup.com. Hope to see some more of you sign up as members. Before that, did I miss anything, Colin?
No, that should be everything.
All righty. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for the super chats, which I already read. And we'll see you at 5 o'clock Eastern.